Welcome po sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating pong pag-aaral on the Bible that Jesus read, a study of the Old Testament based on the book by Philip Yancey. So ngayon po sa ating pong pag-aaral po ay tayo po ay mag-focus naman po sa book of Deuteronomy, a taste of bittersweet. Kung hindi nyo pa po nababasa ang book of Deuteronomy, ay basahin nyo po muna bago nyo po pag-aralan ito pong video session po na ito. Pero kung tapos na po kayo, magpatuloy po tayo sa ating pag-aaral. When we say Deuteronomy, marami po mga Kristiyano nagsasabi, boring naman po yan. Kasi yung mga stories and yung laws nito, makikita po natin, actually, para siyang replay lang ng mga nangyari sa Leviticus tsaka sa Numbers. Parang, ang temptation today is, i-forward mo na yung lahat, tapos basahin mo na kagad yung nangyari sa chapter 34, at antayin mo na mamatay na lang si Moses dun sa tuktok ng Mount Nebo dahil hindi siya makakatawid dun po sa lupang pangako. To be honest, maaaring nagtataka po kayo, gaya ko noon, nung una, bakit ba kasama ang Deuteronomy sa Bible, let alone the Old Testament? However, ito pong attitude po na ito, it only reflects a disconnect between us who call ourselves New Testament believers and yung pong ating pong mga ninuno, yung mga forerunners po ng modern day church. So, tignan po natin ang history and background of Deuteronomy sa session po na ito. First is that Deuteronomy, the title, is a transliteration from the Greek word that means second law. So, this was a mistranslation of Deuteronomy 17:18 from Septuagint, or the ancient Greek translation of the Old Testament, referring to a copy of the law. So, dun sa verse po na yun, sinabi na you must make a copy of the law. So, yung nagkaroon po ng mistranslation, so yung copy of the law, second law, so kaya po siya Deuteronomy. However, Deuteronomy is not a second law but a repetition and expansion of the laws given to Israel at Mount Sinai, and as these were referenced in Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. So, ang Hebrew title naman po ng Deuteronomy is based on the first line of Deuteronomy 1 verse 1. Sinabi niya, these are the words. So, yung pong Hebrew title niya literally means these are the words. These are the words of Moses actually. So, this is a book of speeches of Moses. Sino po ang nagsulat? Moses is the recognized author of this book. Based on Deuteronomy 31 verse 9, as it contains most of his words. Again, these are 3 sermons or speeches directed at the second generation of Israelites born or grown up during the 40 years of wilderness wanderings. The speeches may have been recorded by scribes kasi hindi naman pwedeng ilagay ni ni Moses na nandun na siya sa tuktok ng bundok at mamamatay na siya, di ba? So, ito pong mga scribes na ito ang nagdagdag ng details po na yun. Other later Old Testament and New Testament writings attribute Deuteronomy to Moses. So, for example, Joshua 23 verse 6, 1 Kings 2 verse 3, Malachi 4 verse 4, Matthew 19, 7 to 8, and Romans 10, 19. So, ang general na accepted na ano po dito is that Moses is the author of this book. Yung setting po niya, ito po ay set within the greater context of Numbers 22 to Joshua chapter 2. Ito po yung pong eve of the conquest of Canaan. So, ito po yung time na yung po mga Israelita ay nandun po sa bago po sila tumawid ng Jordan River, and ang occasion po dito was Moses giving his last words to the Israelites bago po siya mamatay. Kailan ito isinulat? Most scholars place the writing and publication of Deuteronomy around the time of the conquest of Canaan. So, this is around 1406 or 1220 BC. But others date it to the time of the Chronicles or even in the post-exile. Yung pong pag nakabalik na yung mga Jews sa Judea. The most feasible view is to take Deuteronomy as dating from the time of Moses with respect to its internal testimony. Also, makikita rin po natin sa atin pong observation na yung pong structure ng Deuteronomy is similar to many ancient treaties of its time, especially yung pong mga treaties of the Hittites nung pong 2nd millennium. And it also points to the possibility that it is set and written before 1000 BC. Bakit po mahalaga na malaman po natin ang mga bagay po na ito? Deuteronomy concludes the Pentateuch, yung pong first 5 books of the Bible and of the Old Testament. And it brings together the promises to the patriarchs, yung history of the Exodus and the wilderness years, and the laws given to the people at Mount Sinai. So parang pinagtatahi together ng Deuteronomy yung mga kwento po at mga laws po na ito. It also serves as a theological foundation for the age of conquest and the subsequent years, leading to the age of kings. Most likely, ito po ang Book of Deuteronomy, yung na-rediscover nung pong time ni King Josiah. Mababasa po natin yan sa 2 Kings verse 23. Deuteronomy is also referred to by several prophets, including Jeremiah and Hosea. It's also important for us to note that New Testament writers quoted from Deuteronomy almost 200 times. Si Jesus, he most notably referenced it during his temptation in the wilderness. So, mababasa po yan sa Matthew 4 verses 1 to 11 where he quoted Deuteronomy 6 verse 13, 16, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verses 13, 16, and chapter 8 verse 3. And Paul was also referring to Deuteronomy in his letter to the Romans. Tignan po natin ang ilang po mga observations on Deuteronomy. So, one observation is napaka-similar po ng structure ng Deuteronomy dun sa mga katulad ng mga ancient treaties of the time. So, isang kahalintulad po dito yung po mga Hittite treaties around the 15th and 13th centuries before Christ. Ang structure po nila is meron pong preamble, parang introduction po ng purpose ng treaty, may historical prologue, may general stipulations, may specific na stipulations, blessings and curses, and then may document clause and witnesses. And kung titingnan po natin yung pong structure ng Deuteronomy, parang ganito. Kung hahati-hatiin po natin yung mga chapters niya, it's very similar po to the Hittite treaties of its time. So, kung titingnan po natin sa outline, may prologue, okay? And then, yung first speech po ni Moses, nandiyan po yung kanyang historical prologue nung parang treaty, hindi po ba? Next is, sa second speech, yung pong General Covenant Stipulations. So, kasama po dyan yung pong sa 10 Commandments, the Greatest Commandment sa chapter 6. And then, meron mga specific covenant stipulations like yung tamang pagsamba, yung pagbibigay ng tithes, yung sabbatical year, feasts, etc. etc. And then in the third speech, mababasa po natin dito yung mga blessings and curses. So para talaga siyang kontrata. And then final exhortation, and then yung pong succession of leadership, dito po yung parang pirmahan na ng mga witnesses. So based po on the outline of Deuteronomy, it's very similar to the Hittite treaties of its time. Another observation is that Deuteronomy is largely a retelling of 40 years of history of the Israelites in Moses' words. So binanggit po dito mga key events katulad nung yung rebellion ng mga tao sa Kadesh, yung pong Golden Calf Incident, yung victories against the Amorite kings, and binanggit din dito ang mga key mga laws such as the 10 Commandments and yung pong sabbatical year. So it was important kasi ito pong mga second generation Israelites na audience, na original audience ng Deuteronomy, kailangan na they had to commit these things these laws and events to memory. Kasi marami sa kanila hindi pa pinanganak nung pong nangyari yung pong Exodus from Egypt. Kaya kinukwento sa kanila ni Moses yung mga bagay po na ito. It is a mistake to believe na ito pong second generation na Israelites were totally devoted yung kanilang puso sa Panginoon. In Numbers 25, around 24,000 of the people died because they were involved already in worshiping of Baal. I mean, hindi pa sila tumatawid dun sa Jordan and yet nagkakasala na sila. Yung sinasabi ni Moses na pupunta kayo dito sa lupain na ito, magkakasala na kayo at gagawin nyo, tatalikod ang inyong puso sa Diyos. Bago pa mangyari yun, andito pa lang sila, tumatalikod na yung puso nila sa Diyos. So, ang isang mababasa po natin dito sa Numbers, si Balaam, si Propeta Balaam, yung pong hinire na prophet ng hari na si Balak to curse Israel, but he blessed the people of Israel 3 times, and then ito pong prophet na ito, yung pong nagsalita yung kanyang sinasakyan na donkey. And however, this prophet advised the king Balak to send women to lead Israel from worshiping God. And kaya 24,000 din namatay kasi yung pong mga tao nag-aasawa na sila ng mga Moabite women that were drawing their hearts away from God. Also, the early chapters of Deuteronomy recount the conquest of Hishon and Bashan. And ang conquest po na ito involved the total destruction of these cities. This practice was known as devotion. Sa context po natin ngayon, pag sinasabi, nag-devotion ka na ba? Parang iniisip natin na nagbasa ka na ng Bible, nag-pray ka to God. Pero actually, devotion means setting apart something for destruction as an offering to God. So, when we think about the word devotion, we must think of it as, meron ka bang bagay na you have to totally destroy it as an offering to God? Hindi naman necessarily material thing, but most probably something that is hindering us from worshiping God. Also, another observation dito is yung pong expression na crossing the Jordan has come to mean ngayon as a moment of victory. Pero actually, yung pong bago pa man tumawid yung pong mga Israelites sa Jordan, it was yung pagtawid po nila sa Promised Land, hindi po siya happy life. It was the start of a lifelong struggle. So this was the significance of the blessings and curses na sinasabi ni Moses dito po sa Deuteronomy. Kasi he was charging the Israelites to remember all of these things bago sila tumawid. Kasi deep inside, Moses knew that they will soon forget God and the mighty works that He has done. Medyo parang prophetic po ang Deuteronomy in the end. Makikita po natin dito sa Deuteronomy 18:15 to 19 na ginagamit po as a reference to Jesus. And ito pong mga prophetic portions po ng Deuteronomy sa Song of Moses, these seem to be fulfilled many years later when the Israelites totally forget about God. Mababasa po natin ito sa kwento po ng Judges, sa 1st and 2nd Samuel, and even in the Chronicles of the Kings na paulit-ulit po na cycle na yung pong mga tao nakakalimutan nila si God. They cry out dahil meron pong si God, pinarusahan sila, may sumakop sa kanila or may nagpapahirap sa kanila, and then they cry out for help, and then somebody will come to deliver them. Paulit-ulit because the people's hearts were far, far away from God. What are the themes and the messages po that we can learn from Deuteronomy? Number 1 is that God is faithful even when we are not. Another message here is that sin is a serious matter at hindi po natin dapat binabaliwala po ang sin. Dealing with sin requires total surrender and obedience to God. Importante po na matutunan po natin dito that the law was given to make us depend on God's righteousness, not on our own. So, hindi po binigay ng Diyos ito pong law for us to try to achieve righteousness sa ating pong mga sarili, but to make us realize na kailangan natin ng tulong. The law was given, it was meant to be observed by considering its spirit, not just the text of the law. Despite being free of the original generation from the Exodus, ito pong second generation na Israelites na ito, they were still a stiff-necked people. Malayo po ang kanilang puso mula sa Diyos. Thus, a heart surgery performed by God was necessary to make His chosen people totally devoted to Him. So, these are some of the themes and messages po that we can learn from our study po of Deuteronomy. And sa next na session po natin, we will be looking at the insights that Philip Yancey will be sharing with us through his book, The Bible That Jesus Wrote. So, see you po sa ating pong next session. God bless you and keep you.